So welcome everybody to the first episode of the B-Talk / Coffee Talk / Buzzing Talk. Today's guest is Ayman Ghali, a filmmaker. And just quickly introducing the purpose of the Coffee Talk before going in, since this is our first episode. The Coffee Talk is supposedly a media platform open to the BHive club and to the BHive NFT project, where later on we'll be having members of the community come in as guests and as co-speakers and as co-hosts as well. And it's just a way for us to give back to this lovely group of people that have been supporting us and are still supporting us. Looking forward to our launch. You can check all of our info through our socials, which are going to be linked under the video and in the description. So without further ado, let Ayman introduce what he does, who he is, and what filmmaking means for him. So Ayman, welcome.
Thank you for hosting, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you and excited for this accessibility that we all live in today's world, really. Our voices are heard. I think عم يسمعونا لا. So good. I'm a filmmaker, Ayman Ghali. I'm a filmmaker, صانع محتوى. I'm a director from Beirut, and I've been really trying to understand as much as I can how to create in today's world in relation to my age and in relation to the modern days that we're living through. And I'm جرب كل الوقت basically to catch my train, and I'm trying not to recreate what people before me created. So I'm very inspired by what's going around me in today's world and look forward to being innovative in it, basically.
How do you define the modern world that you're talking about, and when did it become modern?
It's so hard to define. It's really hard. No, we're living in such a fast time, and it's really sometimes it's so hard to even understand like what's going on and how these technology are coming to hand, and
things move so fast and move so quick.
And the effect of this technology on us and what it's doing to us, you know, it's crazy time to. So it's hard to put a word on it and say, you know, this is what it is. But I think through art we understand a lot and we assess what's going on and we try to understand.
I think art and filmmaking, at least for me, is a very powerful tool. Either to send a message or to gather up together under a specific purpose. What is filmmaking for you, and how can it be used as a tool?
Filmmaking is a storytelling, right? It's just another way to tell a story through moving images, and it makes more sense for us as humans because this is how we see. This is the frame rate we see in everyday life is how the camera works. So when we see stuff and we relate to a character, we go through with a story of a character, we start relating to مواضيع معينة that can really either educate us on a specific topic or inspire us or so on. So filmmaking is very important because it also documents history. I think I'm a documentary filmmaker in that sense because I like to document place and time and whatever is going on in this era.
Was the storytelling / documenting available?
Right, no,
long ago.
Right, being a filmmaker was not always accessible. Really, it was. I know back in the days, in the 21st century, the biggest innovation we have is the World Wide Web. But before that, it was really
the printer,
hard.
At least, like some people say that the printer was the most innovative thing,
right?
Because it allowed us to duplicate paper and then duplicate text. But then something came in that allowed us to duplicate video and to duplicate 100%. Sound. But how effective was it, and how effective is it?
Right, 100%. I think before the World Wide Web, filmmaking was really inaccessible. It was really hard to be a filmmaker because you needed the technology, you needed a lot of money, and you needed a platform. And always the platform was a very inaccessible place that you always needed to certainly either be telling a specific agenda or story to follow a certain platform. So these platforms were not really, let's say they're not platforms. And before the World Wide Web, these were not platforms, these were festivals, film festivals, physical film festivals.
I'd say, and يمكن لازم to cool down on my English كمان بذات الوقت إنه would you say that كانوا entities
right
أكتر مما هن كانوا platforms, because at the end of the day what a platform is supposed to give you is leverage.
Right.
يعني أنت مفروض يطلع لك من وراء هالبلاتفورم للي إن كان مثل ما كنا عم نحكي إن كان موفي معين أو يوتيوب أو so on and so forth, and we will also love to get into what the World Wide Web means to the media platforms. It's supposed to give you leverage.
Right.
غير ما إنه أنت as an entity or maybe as an individual to just use this platform to push a specific agenda مثل ما أنت كنت عم تحكي.
Right. So قبل حتى كان معنا هول البلاتفورمز we had only these entities that you spoke about, and these entities were film festivals or big, large corporations that were very inaccessible, and for them to give you money for you to make your idea, this idea had to kind of follow their agenda or follow their, you know, what they're working on the bigger picture and behind the scenes.
They have the money and the funding
right.
to go through all of the big equipment.
Right.
Like what the world's first camera was like a huge thing, and then they had to hide
exactly. So the technology
something.
was not always available. And we have phones in our the cameras in our phones in our pockets that we can take out and vlog every day on, and the platforms are available.
And then the leverage comes from those platforms, and ultimately the World Wide Web, and also ultimately through the which I would like for us to go into the topic ultimately through NFTs.
Right, right.
So yeah.
So basically, back to the printer, when you were saying the printer, before we had the camera, and that camera was only accessible through a lot of money and through. Halla, we have the platform, we have the camera in our pocket, and we have the kind of information flowing all around us.
So it's different types of media.
Right.
صار عندك إذا بدك تحكي الريلز وصار عندك 10 minute 15 minute things that pages like Vice and pages like these pages that do the documentaries have.
Right.
And then at the same time you have the infographic image content.
Right. وقبل it's good to note انه هيدا البرينتر ليش البرينتر انا I go back to this because it's important to mention, and when we first had the Web.1, Web.1 was like a very old big library where it had a lot of books, but these books you can get access to, but you can't write your own notes on it.
You could say
and
it's
you
the
can't
internet
say
of
what
information.
Right, the internet of information, and we had a lot of information, but we could not نزيد عليها. We couldn't add to it, or we couldn't put our own notes on this. So we were only consuming in Web.1. And then came Web.2, where it gave us a platform through a centralized platforms where we can actually put some notes, or which is Facebook. You go in, you blog, you
like, you comment, so on and so forth.
Right.
And then it started introducing pages, and then it started introducing groups, and it's different levels of just networking over social media. إذا عم نحكي إذا هلا نحنا فايتين the idea of how media is shown through social media.
Right, and it's important to say, Facebook was huge in that sense. It gave us a lot of access, but at the same time,
it took away a lot of things from us.
It took away a lot of things, and just like YouTube did, YouTube for us as filmmakers was very huge. Like suddenly we had a platform, and I can just go about my day and make films every day through I can edit on my phone. I can, and things were much more accessible. And then we had the platform, and I didn't need La Cannes, La Sundance, all these big major, the big equipment, everything. I can tell a story, and what that made was saturate the market in a way where it was focused on the story now, because everybody can come and make a nice image because you have it through your phone. The cameras we have are really advanced in today's world, and it's really cheap to get this technology.
With the smartphone cameras.
Exactly. So now it's about more the story. What is your story, Arafat?
I want to ask you, did YouTube, if we're talking about YouTube right now, and these Web2 media platforms, if you want to say, because also Facebook is also quote-unquote media, because you can upload videos there. Instagram is the same as well, Twitter as well. Did they give hope to the individual filmmaker, as بدنا نحكي, or to the individual content pumper? So yeah, that's one part of the question.
I think it obviously gave us a lot of hope, and especially for people who graduated early in the days of YouTube and from in filmmaking, and were really hard to get a job in the industry. They were finding themselves on YouTube and these platforms because they had the power to create, and the know-how of how to create. And then I think these people partnered up a lot with people that found themselves in front of the camera, but never were actually talents in front of the camera talents, but found themselves out because of the accessibility again in the platforms like YouTube and so on. So these two people partnered up together, and they created an industry by itself, which is YouTube. Whether you're a makeup artist and you want to you're good in front of the camera, you can speak.
Firm, you can also open up a YouTube page. And also, one other thing that I wanted to ask you is YouTube, okay? وكيف مكونة بحد ذاتها YouTube and all of these pages that come, is it worth the time that we sacrifice, not only as providers of content but as consumers of content? لأنه مثل عم نحكي the playing field has been evened out إذا بدك تحكي للي قادر الشخص يلي عنده هالسمارت فون المعين. And I also want to get into the point, which is a completely different point, إنه is it only about the story بس ولا is it about the person who's telling the story?
Right.
قد إيه هو قادر يحط من شخصيته من ستيله من his own art. يمكن أنت as a specific filmmaker the way you do movies, even if it's the same movie, another person could not replicate your aura مثل ما بيحكوا,
Of
أو
course.
could not replicate your style.
Yeah, of course. I think one of the biggest revelations on YouTube was, you know, we switched from being a celebrity to an influencer.
And people loved the channels for the
Right.
for the hosts,
Because it was more closer to you. It was you're more accessible, and I can just go on YouTube and replay you and rewatch you and get into on your Instagram and know more about you and what you do behind the scenes on your stories and whatnot. So this created this kind of mentality that you have to be very vulnerable in front of the camera, whether vulnerable or real, out of it to tell the right story, to really be authentic in that kind of way.
And then close to your community, and also people that succeeded a lot were people that listened actually to their loyal subscriber base.
But what that was come in is at the same time, and I like to see it as, imagine the world Web 1 was a park governed by municipality, for example, and you can come in and play Web 2, right? This example I saw is really brilliant. This Web 2 is like the same park, it's governed by the same municipality, but you can come in and create your own games inside that park.
Maybe submit motions and amendments.
Exactly. So YouTube was that, you know, we can create our own playground, but at the same time,
we're also providing the
but
content.
At the same time, we're under a specific governor that is YouTube, you know, or that is this municipality. But what the Web 3 is a whole forest that we all own together, and no the governor is the nature of this forest by itself. So what this means is that we have more access as consumers and as creators, not just creators. So as consumers now, we are able to, the more you consume, the more you also get rewarded with the creator.
Sorry. Whether it's through your skills, whether it's through your knowledge, whether it's through your information, you're all getting rewarded. But at least in Web 2, maybe you aren't farmed for your interest. And this is something I told you before we started the role. Web 2 for me is where people and viewers are farmed for their interests, and then their interests are translated to money through this big municipality that you're talking about, that's going to go ahead and that's going to sell your data and your information to the other things. Whereas,
and then social interaction is important. Like, why am I not being rewarded for my social interaction?
Exactly.
Taking my data and using it for me.
Whereas maybe Web 3 and what our idea, and I'd love to hear what your idea of a Web 3 YouTube or a Web 3 decentralized social media platform. في كتير عالم عم تجرب تعمل، في كتير projects كمان عم تجرب تعمل. في Rug Radio, we're gonna make it studios. Rug Radio was from a big name in the ETH field. We're gonna make Farouk, exactly. We're gonna make it studios. Was from Kosher Plug, and these people, what they're trying to do is sort of build a decentralized a media platform where. Okay, so I'm just gonna say this again in case we want to cut this. What these people are trying to do is that they're trying to build a decentralized media platform where it gives more leverage to the individual holder, whether he wants to be, he or she, let's say, wants to be a co-host or someone that pumps out the info and all of that, or they want to be a consumer. It sort of gives them the skills and the tools to actually do everything within a decentralized entity, which is a possible Web3 media platform.
Right.
In my opinion.
And me, and this is really needed at this point, because what YouTube does is tell you that you own your data, but then when you go to the actual rules and regulations that you sign, it says, we do not claim ownership of your content, but you grant us license to reuse it.
Bringing out the big guns.
And you hereby grant us to non-exclusive royalty, a free transferable, sub-licensed, worldwide license to host, use, distribute, modify, run, copy, publicize, perform, or display, or translate, and recreate your content. So, we don't own it, but we own it. You know what I mean?
One just small comment that I want to make is that a lot of NFT projects are coming up right now and saying straight off the bat that you have every right to monetize and to market and to own your content. هلا moving maybe out of filmmaking, ما بعرف إذا بتعرف في crypto punk اسمه Seed Phrase. The guy is now a DJ. His name is Seed Phrase, and rather than just selling his CryptoPunk as an asset, he turned it into his life. So he DJs with a mask. Billy CryptoPunk اللي عنده إياه. It's a very fucking cool mask. It has lights and so on and so forth. So حتى يعني B-Web3 you're allowed to build a life around your content.
Of course.
كنا عم نحكي يعني هذا الزلمه من الكريبتو بانك تبعه عمر حياته وهي embraced انه هو اسمه دي جي سيد فريس. he embraced his virtual identity.
Yeah, and basically this is what happened from Web 2 to 3 is by YouTube is, you know, if you consume this kind of content and all its spirituality or about science or whatever, this is what I consume. But then you fit and belong to the people that create this content, and you help them create it with your يعني together, you know, instead of just consuming their content. Now you're part of their team and you're part of their community, and you can suggest to them what can they create more that fits you as a community. And you as a consumer, you're owning كمان rights معهم عم يطلع لك social interaction tokens.
And also later on, if you can monetize it, you can split the monetization.
Right.
And so on and so
So
forth.
the DAO here is really important too, because it says, you know, okay, we want to create, this is what we want to create, let's create it together.
And what's a DAO again?
A decentralized autonomous organization that is immortal, because immortality is very important here, because it's not run by anyone or no individual, it runs by itself. So it can keep going. So this idea that you once planted as a seed can keep going if it's really appreciated by the people or by the community enough that they work on it with trust and devotion, really.
One thing that I always worry about, I'm completely with decentralization, but sometimes we see إنه كل ما نحن عم نعطي decentralization كل ما أمرار we lose our efficiency or how efficient we are. إنه دايما some sort of small centralization or layer or hierarchy could help in its efficiency. How would you sort of fight that in a decentralized, completely decentralized media platform? فهمت شو قصدي؟ يعني أنت ما بدك بآخرة النهار and sorry if إذا عم طول with my question إنه تكون فاتحة هيدي لكل العالم والكل يقترح and it's decentralized, but then again the decentralization is the thing that's slowing it down.
Right.
فهمت شو قصدي؟
100%.
Whereas you can maybe put a higher council of very devoted holders that then they hold the القرارات الأقوى لأنه بآخرة النهار هن عم بيعرفوا شو عم بيصير أكتر من غيرهم. What do you think about this idea?
Yeah, I think it's important to note here دايما إنه decentralization صح نحن بنقول دايما decentralization, but it's really hard to understand what is being decentralized. Like what do you mean? I think it's more than that. It's just redistributing the ownership and your access to this. It's instead of saying decentralized, it's just redistributing the power. And no, enter, you own your content, best. And I don't want more leverage over that. I just want to own what I create. You know what I mean? So these DAOs are still gonna have the power by the token. يعني مين عنده أكتر tokens or whatever. But then it really works as a BHive, quote unquote, again, right? Because
Thank you.
Yeah, it really does. It works as a BHive because eventually there's the queen bee. And she's always in control, but كمان they all work together into creating the better good for everybody.
That supports each other and that amplifies everybody's work.
Because if you want to email YouTube, they're not going to get back to you in a week or two. And if you want to talk to them about your content and why you made it or whatever, you know, they're not going to.
YouTube has the funds to come up with the stuff,
of course,
with the team. Why don't they do that?
Right. So this is what I mean by redistributing the power and instead of decentralization.
Also, who can hold YouTube accountable?
Right.
Whenever they make a mistake. Whereas if you split up the ownership quote unquote اللي كنا عم نحكي فيها for your decentralized media platform, في مين يجي يلاحق، في مين يجي يقول لك ليك حبيبي انت قصرت هون قصة 1 2 3. مين قادر يلاحق يوتيوب؟
Yeah, that's one. And censorship انه يوتيوب لحقينا لانه ما حدا عم يلحقهم. Nobody is really up on their ass, but they're following us on censorship, for example. And I think filmmaking is such a great tool to tell a story, and the story cannot be censored.
And on mostly biased topics as well. فنكون كتير real
بهالموضوع. And specifically يعني هلا if you look at what's been happening on Instagram last year with Palestine and whatnot and the exposure, and every platform has a way to kind of have more power over you على الcontent اللي انت عم تحطه. So in the end, it's this is artwork, and you can't censor art because hey, we try and tell a story, and the realer it is, the more really you get the story out
and
there.
Okay, very quick intro or very quick in. What's the story you're trying to tell with Yanaverse and with everything
I was working on
you're doing? لأنه you told me the story a couple of days ago, and I was very interested by it because personally, أنا as a person, I relate to it, and then. This idea of decentralized media is also something that's very intriguing to people right now. So what are you doing, and also what's your story, and then what's the message, and how can NFTs help send this message in a louder way?
Right. The story is so I'm working on a documentary parallel with a fictional story, and the story came out of Lebanon, of the revolution in Lebanon. And it came out of really looking at there's a bigger fight happening everywhere in the world, and that was just me looking at the political fights happening. And then from there I started looking at all the other revolution, the economic, technological and social revolution that
the mental revolution,
COVID
all
got us in and all that. And I felt like there's such a shift and a big shift in consciousness, the way we trade, the way we live, the way we talk, the way we do everything is really changing. So I wanted to as a documentary filmmaker, just record that time and place, because if you look at it in 10 years, there's so many unusual events that have happened and that are hard to understand.
You guys are today's historians.
Right.
I'd say.
I think so. You know, everybody doing anything now on this technology, I think, is writing history at the same time. And what we're trying to do is just document this experience and tell it, to translate it to the people who haven't been yet on these spaces and don't know and don't understand the technology. Just to say that this is as natural as a plant. I think that it exists because there was a need for it, and this need, I'm going back to the political fights and on the ground, the physical need. From there, it went on to become more of a collective and a collective of artists and activists from around the world coming together to utilize the blockchain and our NFTs to turn them into grants, to make more art inspired by our times and the fact that we are not alone. You are not alone.
Like we all eventually pass through. Very funny laugh, actually, back there. So the fact that we all pass through similar, quote unquote,
right? We are all living somehow one kind of storyline, and we are sharing the pain, and we're connecting through pain. And I know what I like about these spaces that are going on Twitter is that I hear personal stories and I connect to these people because
I love Twitter spaces.
Because they're really being real to themselves, and there's just a human connection based on the suffering that we all woke up to. I think our generation.
Is it suffering or is it like a wake up call, quote unquote?
You never wake up unless you're suffering enough, right? This is why I say
it is a point of view.
Yeah. So I think what happened there was, we woke up to having these connections through these platforms, and I'm suffering just like they're suffering. So why don't we all try to figure out how to make things better, So this is, I think,
all together.
And this is how I think we got to the Web3 and this accessibility that says community, that says our power is in the mass,
and then
all of us together.
How does this all of us together concept translate to NFTs? And then how powerful are NFTs as a tool to help you give leverage to your holders, or give leverage not necessarily to your holders, because like your holders as in Yanaverse's holders. Or any other decentralized media platform. يعني مش غلط نحن نكون إذا بدك عم نحط the how to and the baseline, لأنه مثل ما قلت لك also قبل, you're also a pioneer in this field. And everything related to NFTs right now, a lot of people are pioneers because they're doing things that have not done before, because they're doing things اللي ما عندهم point of reference يطلعوا عليهم.
Exactly.
So why NFTs? How NFTs? And then how do you do it? Because you can't compare to anyone.
Yeah, it's a very experimental space for sure, and it's not like there's a structure that we can follow, especially as like filmmakers, and it's because it's more like JPEGs, right?
Yeah.
But
right click save as JPEG.
Yeah, exactly. But in the end of the day, the smart contract is written without the JPEG, right? It's just a smart contract that you and me have signed something together, whatever that means, or whatever it is that contract. But from there, what we're trying to do and what I'm trying to do is that instead of going to people and to, again, the big corporations and the large people with the money and all that are so not accessible, and they want to manipulate your story to tell something specific and whatnot, I'm building it with the community, because I feel like there's a kind of a need from the community coming out saying that there's something big happening, and how can we tell our people around us,
Also, one very quick question. Are you building the story with the community, or do you have the story built, or do you have the story built and you're adapting to what your community is suggesting and the feedback?
This is what we're doing.
One very important thing.
Sorry
if I'm بحكي هيك. كان قلب المايك كمان. لا بس خلينا نحكي هيك نركز. The question was إنه هل أنت كاتب القصة وجاي عندك يا فكر خالص، ولا أنت عم تفتح مجال على إنه to edit this story
as it goes.
the community needs مثل ما بيقولوا.
Right now, and I've been writing this story for a while now, since back to 2019, since the revolution in Lebanon, and so it's the story. The structure of the story is almost finished. But كمان there's a lot of it's based on characters. It's based on real stories of real humans. So these characters are going to be reflected by our community. So through joining the writers' room, people are going to pitch stories about their change and how they felt that sort of change and that very big shift through the past couple of years. So through this kind of room that we're going to be engaging with in the community, we're going to learn a lot of stories that we didn't know about, about what's going on, and we're going to definitely be using it. But there's always going to be a structure to follow for sure. And what we're trying to do is to create more grants for more Yanaverse community members, to create more artwork inspired by that same idea that let's document our time. It's important to document what's going on in today's world. That's one. And two, inspire other people to see that change and to see that positiveness in what's going on in today's world. Because there's a lot of positive aspect to it and people don't see it.
Sometimes it's overshadowed because all of the shit
there's always the
happening
Hollywood dystopian kind of ending to our reality of like we're going to become robots or whatnot. Maybe we can look at the glass half full for now.
أنا بوافقك الرأي وهذا شيء I'm going to give a big props to cryptoware and crypto exchanges because they sort of raised my eye on this إنه ما في شيء بالحياة black or white.
100%.
كل شيء spectrum. ما يعني إنه نحن if we're going into the metaverse right now is that we're going to be fully immersed and then it's going to be a 24-hour thing and كل شيء حنعمله حنكون بالتخت وعنا quest 2 أو شو ما كان يكون مثل ما هلا بنقضي 4 or 5 hours per day أنت يمكن أكتر because you edit and you do all of these things. How beautiful would it be to also have this gateway إذا بدك quote unquote to an even higher level of virtual connectivity.
Right, and I think it's more than that also kind of getting us back to basics is that like through these
what matters is being
the information
kind.
that's being spread out there's a lot of awareness being raised on environmental issues, for example, or other issues that and if we stuck in that unconnected world, we wouldn't have realized. Maybe a lot of people wouldn't have realized. So there's a good and bad always. And again, I don't like to say good and bad. كمان حتى the black and white are not good and bad. The black
the
and white
yin and the yang, they're just opposites.
Right. And if you watch our brand for Yanaverse, we work a lot under that black and white and what it means to look at these extremes and what are the shades in between. Because I think by the end of the day, it's just everything inherently neither good or bad. It's what you do with it, basically.
It's a spectrum, exactly.
And as Alan Watts says, these two fishes, and when you see the yin and yang, they're not fighting, they're dancing, they're together. بلا واحد ما في تاني يعني بلا ما في تكون أنت غير أنا ما في يكون أنا غير شيء. So it's important that we appreciate the differences between each other and celebrate each other too. And that's what I see happening on the spaces is that everybody is accepting and loving. And
I think مثل ما قلت أنت إنه it brings us back to the basics. مثل ما كنت عم تحكي هلا. It makes you question if just people are doing this just for the aspect of being noticed.
Right.
مثل على ستيل على white list أو هيك قصص بس هلا all jokes aside, a lot of questions that arise when I think about this. إنه are these people being kinder / happier / more bubbly because they're in a virtual environment? Because يمكن some people are shy. Maybe some people in real life are shy. Does this open up a new world of personalities مثل ما نحكي, and does this open up a new world of possibilities? The whole virtual world thing, which is ultimately how all of this is being translated is through visual content. يعني the NFTs are visual content, their images, and then they have their teaser videos, and then all of the metaverse is being consumed under visual format for now. ما بعرف يمكن later on they can come up with something that can create every single smell in the world, and then they include it in the Oculus and like sci-fi, very futuristic shit. But for now, everything is being consumed under a visual format, which is a big push to you visual arts skilled people يعني مثلك أنت as a filmmaker and for other people. And I think it's great to have NFTs pour into this field as a first field because بآخر النهار أول شيء واحد بيعمله بيشوف.
Right. I think back to the point that you were saying, are they really good people or are they trying to be good people because now they're being more watched more, right? I don't know.
Maybe
you know
kindness
what?
is the currency of the virtual world. Maybe now we are forced, as a quote unquote, to build a reputation for ourselves because kindness is your currency.
Right.
And then what your materialistic things, let's say, are أكيد your wallet and so on and so forth, and your holdings and all of that also work with a smart contract and all of that. But is kindness your currency? Is your reputation your currency within this virtual world?
Right. I think. I mean, we can't generalize here by saying everybody is or whatever. But I think there's a big point to mention here, which is, 70% of the people that are finding themselves in this virtual reality maybe were through the system not allowed to be themselves in this reality.
Yeah.
So they found a more accepting place, and this is why they're there, and they understand really that they're accepted here, and this is why they want to accept more people. But I see that a lot through a lot of different communities, that this is the يعني شوية it's philosophically looking at the avatar. Why do we wear a different something?
Why do we need a different personality? لأنه
Right.
أنا برأيي we need a funnel, or like a second place to funnel all of our like secondary lives. All of us have private lives. All of us have private shit that we do all alone. And then you see these are the first things that you do in the virtual world, because you're not shy. Maybe it is because your identity is hidden and no one knows you in real life. Maybe it is because people can judge, but they can't judge the you. They can only judge the virtual you. I don't know. These are a lot of questions.
But whatever it is, what's important is that people are starting to realize that this virtual them is them too, and whatever they do lives somewhere that will forever be there. And they are more aware that they have to treat that persona in a
and then they have to sort of grow that
serious
persona.
way.
Yeah, they have to grow that persona. They have to take care of the skills that they have, the knowledge that they have, because it's a completely different field. It's a new playground, and I think these are huge questions for another topic.
But I think they're beautiful questions. I think this is where we lie, is like, what is going on, like what's going to happen next? Because, for example, like there's a lot of I don't want to say white, but there's a lot there's a lot of it's a trend too to be like to be spiritual nowadays, or to share your yoga routine, or what you eat.
هذا الشيء بتخاف منه انه is it a trend? Because a lot of people are trend followers.
Right, but you know what I think like maybe it is a trend, and I mean, of course not for everyone, but for whoever is using it as a trend, good. Fine, not a problem. Maybe eventually they really learn something from what they're doing, and they adapt it to themselves. And
أكيد ما حيزعل واحد, I'm not gonna be sad if someone actually learns.
Right.
But I think people need to stop being trend followers and not necessarily be trend setters, but don't wait for people to go tell you what's the next coolest thing to do. Don't wait for go مثل ما أنت عم تحكي, go write your own story. Go
and experiment in a place that you
feel comfortable
in. I could have just stuck to the old, like I love film, right? Like film photography or film making films in film, not in video. But at the same time,
like in real life, not metaverse.
Right. No, not just like making film in film, not video. I mean, as in using film reels, using the old technology.
Like old
and a lot
school.
of people like to kind of put it back on the map, and whatnot. But I think this is living in a nostalgic past that we don't exist in anymore, and we have a lot of useful technologies that are coming out that we should use to be able to tell our story better. So why are we being stuck in the past and recreating whatever people before us created? Like, I love the film look. It's really more beautiful than video, of course. Has nostalgia. But how much time is it going to take you to tell a story this way? Whether صار فيك تروح تجيب 360 camera تصور كل السين حواليك, or you press record. So what I think is really story matters a lot. I think the main important thing is the story, not the tool you use, and whether it's a painting. The story you tell is the most important thing in any artwork you kind of do in today's world, because the technology خلاص صارت it's being milked.
ما بيقولوا it's being milked. طيب, I think it was a very lovely episode.
Sure.
Episode talk. Ayman, if you have any last words مثل ما بيقولوا, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to talk a little more about Yanaverse and to tell people what we were trying to do.
Would love to. Also, what we're trying to do with this platform, and just sorry to cut you, is that NFTs in the end are gonna the success of the field depends on how much every single community and every single project could partner up with each other, because this field is huge and it has space to fit us all. So please tell us more about Yanaverse. Let's end the episode on this very nice note, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically what we were trying to do is really, I love to experiment in unstructured material and technology, and this is such an experimental place right now. And I think whatever we do is we're writing the structure that it is لبعدين, and so we're pioneering it at this point. And not because of that I'm there because I have tools that can get me to tell my story faster, more efficiently, and to get to a crowd way faster and way bigger than what I could have gotten on the big screen.
It's good because it's NFTs as well.
Right, and it's the internet. It's this connection with the internet. Like I can make a film حطه on this festival and it can get 2,000, 3,000 people to watch, and I can put it online and get millions of views to watch because it's just borderless in that way. So what we're doing is trying to create art that's always accessible, that's always free for everybody to consume. Through Web3. So instead of making a film and to say you have to see this film, you have to have a Netflix subscription. No, this film is going to be online for free access for all. But the strategy here is to kind of make money to feed this community, to make more art and to keep making art, because as artists we want to get paid for the art.
Exactly,
you know?
And how do you monetize that?
Right. So for me, like I just want to get paid for making the things I like to do, instead of going and making advertisements. You know,
like, a collective of artists that push each other is the right way to go.
100%. So Anna, for the past 6 years, I worked in advertising, and I was selling something I completely don't believe in, just because I needed the money. So I needed the money, and I had to get it from somewhere and to put it somewhere else. But what we're doing here is to really get paid to do the art we want to do, and to make it, and to keep funding other artists do that art through a decentralized autonomous organization that kind of runs itself. And as long as this idea of let's be aware, let's be present as artists in this space, and let's create.
We have a message to send, and it's gonna be louder through NFTs.
Louder, more efficient, and just way easier to make through NFTs, because once we all believe in one idea, we can make it happen all together. And collaborations are really important, because to make a big film, you need a lot of power, a lot of.
And also. مع انه بيقولوا كثرة الطباخين بالطبخة بتنزعها, بس it's also very nice to have different opinions and different point of views and different
100%.
streams of suggestions.
Yeah.
I think amazing note to end the episode. Thank you كتير.
I'm very happy to be the first guest on this talk. I wish you best of luck.
On to more, fellow
sure.
bees.
And I hope this went good. I hope we could have went on to speak more and more. But if you have any questions anytime, you can reach out to their Discord, to our Discord.
Yep. All of the links are going to be dropped in the description of whichever platform this video ends up going on. But most probably YouTube. Also in our Discord as well. So just ending this note, I'm just going to say this for the first episode. If you guys have any suggestions, any feedback for our format, how we're doing it, suggest any new topics, suggest any new guests, just anything in general, you can always reach out through our socials, through Twitters, through Instagram, and most importantly through Discord. Please guys, just download Discord and just understand how it works.
Download them all.
Okay guys,
all the platforms.
Cheers, and see you guys later. Thank you.
Cheers.